It is a Thursday afternoon in Duval, and it is No Sleep Teal right here on the Reier on YouTube channel. Travis Reier back with you following Thursday's workout, once again involving your Jacksonville Jaguars and the visiting Buccaneers of Tampa Bay. A lot to get into from the practice. Weather we thought maybe early on could prove problematic. It stayed off just long enough. We were able to take in the entirety of the practice. So plenty of thoughts, plenty of observations, whether it's 11 on 11 work, 7 on 7, red zone, some special teams work as well. We'll get into all of it. But first, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we certainly hope you'll take that opportunity right now to hit that subscribe button. Also, while you're at it, hit that notification bell. That way, you are alerted to all of our content as it drops here on the channel. And if you're feeling especially friendly, go ahead and hit that like button for the program. Give us a thumbs up. That would help us out a lot as well. Also, as it relates to Thursday's events, we heard from head coach Doug Peterson, which was interesting in and of itself because there were some questions about the availability of dynamic wide receiver Christian Kirk. And what Doug Peterson revealed is that Christian is dealing with a mild calf strain. Now, not the worst thing to hear about here in mid August. What you don't want to hear about when it comes to soft tissue injuries, which it seems like crop up more and more on an annual basis, especially early in the regular season, as teams and coaches try to manage, especially their frontline players, as far as workload in training camp. And then also making sure that these guys are ready for the 17 game regular season. You'd rather Christian Kirk go ahead right now and deal with this stuff. It's still too soon for a lot of Jaguar fans, if not all of them, where the injuries from a year ago and the toll that took on the 2023 team are concerned. So, hey, Christian, do what you got to do. Get in that training room, even if it's minor, keep it that way, eliminate it, because this is a Jaguar team, as we know, first 3 or 4 games or so of the season could be shootouts, and you're going to need every bullet you can get. And Christian Kirk for the Jags certainly qualifies as such. So you had that update from Doug Peterson. I also think there are still some guys that are working through some minor type of stuff. I think Ezra Cleveland at the one guard spot is certainly one of those guys. I think perhaps Foye Oluokun has been in that boat of late as well. Otherwise, pretty good shape from a health perspective. Obviously, you would love to have Andrew Wingard available right now. We know that's not going to be the case for really the foreseeable future. Kind of is what it is. But again, across the board, not all that bad relative to maybe some other teams right now in the National Football League. Now, as it relates to Thursday's practice, what we'll do is we'll lean on the old X feed where we updated Thursday's practice right there on X at Travis Reier. That is the X or the Twitter handle, whichever way you still go with that designation. But we'll pull that up and we'll work through some of those updates, or really probably just about all of those updates. And we'll start right there at the top with the initial effort. How about that picture, man? How about that photo? That's Pulitzer Prize award winning, isn't it? Trevor in the pocket dealing. Looks like Gabe Davis on the left is running an in breaker, or maybe he's going to hook it up against zone coverage. Then you got Travis Etienne Jr., maybe going to run that same angle route out of the backfield that was so good to him against the Kansas City Chiefs last Saturday night. And as you got into some 7-on-7 work Thursday, it was red zone oriented from the early stages of the practice. And boy, Andre Cisco on the defensive field, which again was to the left side of the bleachers, offensive field for the Jags to the right. But Andre jumps one from Baker Mayfield out in the flat. This was going to be a pick six. So Cisco with the early takeaway proved to be one of three by my count for the Jaguar secondary during Thursday's practice. And you look over on the offensive field, Trevor Lawrence hits a toe tapping Evan Ingram in a deep red zone situation for a touchdown. Ball was probably spotted 10 inside the 10 a little bit. Looked like Evan set it up with a little shake to the left and then got it back to the post. And Trevor was on time and accurate for the score. You also had over on the defensive side for the Jags a touchdown for the Bucs. Cameron Johnson, the rookie, quicker than a hiccup type of guy, working inside against Jarian Jones, able to pull in a touchdown pass for a TD. And then back to the offensive side for the Jags, Trevor just absolutely ripped a deep dart to Evan Ingram right down the middle of the field. It looked like Levante David may have been in a Tampa 2 concept. Sounds about right, right? Tampa Bucks, Tampa Bay Bucks, Tampa 2. David can't run with Evan Ingram. As good as David is, beautiful ball from Trevor, probably a top 5 for him in camp. And he just fits it in there to Evan Ingram for a explosive play. And then right after that, this was like Nirvana sequence for Jaguar fans in attendance because not only hits Evan with that shot, comes back shortly thereafter and goes up top again. A reoccurring theme it's becoming with Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr., this time on that sort of post. Beauty of a ball. And folks, it's not that Brian Thomas Jr. is winning against man to man coverage or making plays on deep balls down the field. In some of these situations, he's beating guys by 5 yards. He's 5 yards open with this speed. And that was Tyke Smith, the former Georgia Bulldog, now with the Bucs, who had got a firsthand look at that. He may have been able to see Brian Thomas Jr.'s taillights. I don't think he was too far in the distance to not be able to see him, but it was getting close because Thomas absolutely hit the Jets on that deep ball from Trevor. You got into a field goal period, and boy, another fireworks show from the rookie. He looks like a freshman. That's what he looks like, but he is a rookie in the NFL. And Cam Little, by my count, 5 of 6 for Cam in the field goal period, along of around 52. Lone miss was a bit of a duck hook, a snap hook. It was from range. It was 47, 48, 49 yards, I would guess. So it wasn't like it was a chip shot. Then you get into some 11 on 11 full field work. Talked about how we like Trevor getting moved by design early in possessions, early in games. He did it once again. Press Taylor, Doug Peterson scripted it once again. Looked like it may have been hard boot action with him going out to his left, and then that throwback deep ball that they like. This is probably the third time I've seen it work in training camp. This time it was Brenton Strange, which made it interesting. He's pretty much wide open. Winfield in coverage, the safety for the Bucs. Then in the run game, and this is a concern. I understand that. I said yesterday on the show though, for me, Tank Bigsby in sort of short yardage and goal line inside the 10, I'd love to see him in those to go along with Travis because Travis's versatility. There's more than one way to skin a cat in the red zone, and that's what Travis is going to give you. But I thought on toss sweeps, Dearness Johnson and Tank Bigsby were able to produce some nice gains. Go back to the defensive field. Looked like for a stretch there, the Bucs' depth on offense was taking a little bit of advantage of the Jags 2s and 3s in the back 7. And I understand there are folks out there who have concerns about depth, but you know what? You're always going to have depth concerns with the way the rosters are constructed, what the rules are, salary caps, things like that. Uh, you can't hide guys in the NFL as far as your frontline guys, but you're trying to hide a few where your depth is concerned. And, that's probably going to be a bit of the case for the Jags in every area. I'm still of the belief that when it comes down to it, the Jags will cut some guys, release some guys in the secondary that will catch on elsewhere. I do think there is that type of talent available to Ryan Nielsen to work with. You also went back to special teams. This was a kickoff return period for the Jags. Returners first up, Tank Bigsby, Devin Duvernay. Boy, I know Duvernay and especially Parker Washington after last Saturday night, they are all the buzz. I get all that, but Bigsby is right there for me with those guys because the new kickoff return is essentially like a run play, and it's not the open field type of play. So you need a guy that can kind of feel it as far as creases, see it setting up, and then be able to attack those situations. And that's where Tank Bigsby can absolutely do that. So a little bit of a kickoff return period. Braswell and Washington were also up on those return duties. 11 on 11, you get back into that. Baker Mayfield with a nice crosser to Mike Evans with Tyson Campbell in coverage. That's been a fun one to watch the last couple of days. Tyson Campbell and Mike Evans. Yeah, that'll keep me engaged for quite some time. And then you also had another nice ball from Baker, who responded pretty well to that early interception by Andre Cisco. He hooked up with Evans on a nice deep out cut. It's hard not to think of Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans. Maybe this is the dynamic that they've got going with Baker and Mike Evans because it seems to work. On Wednesday, it felt like the Jags took care of Mike Evans pretty well. I thought he was more effective on Thursday. And then you get into what turned out to be Eric Hallett Day in the Jaguars secondary. This is a guy that very much a long shot to make the roster in the defensive backfield for the Jags and as a special teamer. But he had 2 picks on Thursday. The first came on a Kyle Trask overthrow in the middle of the field. So it was it was a cookie in a lot of ways, but give Hallett credit. He finished the play. Then you got back into some more special teams. This time it was the Jags kickoff coverage unit. And first up, who we saw were guys like Antonio Johnson, Tim Jones, Darnell Savage, Tank Bigsby, Ventrell Miller, Yesser Abdullah, Jarian Jones, Brenton Strange, Chad Muma, of course, Cam Little out there. So that was sort of the look you saw from the kickoff team. 11 on 11, you get back into that. Tavon Campbell actually was at the corner opposite Tyson Campbell to get this 11 on 11 period going. You also had Ledbetter and Smith, Mason Smith inside. So, I've been a little bit cautious in really, really pumping up Mason Smith. But in terms of how they're repping him in practice, it feels like they think he's a legit rotational guy or will be going into the season. Maybe Tyler Lacey, a second year guy, is also in that mix with Ledbetter and some others. I don't know. But it feels like they're really getting Mason Smith more and more work there connected to the top end of the depth chart. Then you get into a deep ball from Kyle Trask as wide receiver Palmer, who got behind Buster Brown on the play, get into some 2-minute warning as well as you move throughout the practice. Mack with a very nice deep crossing route to Brian Thomas Jr. I like that about Brian Thomas Jr. of late, too. It's that it's not all just go routes. We've seen this sort of step as far as the intermediate game, the dig route, deep crossers, some red zone work, finding him in those situations. Hey, if he is that legitimate take the top off the defense guy, that's great. In and of itself, that's great. But if you can get him to the point where he can attack the middle of the field, he's going to have a lot of room to work with because we saw this after he hit for the deep ball earlier. There were some guys in that Buccaneers secondary after they saw that, they were not giving it up deep to Brian Thomas Jr. So if you can start running him on those deep crossers, do some of that kind of stuff, he's going to be very, very, even more effective than he will be just as a vertical threat. Brenton Strange again, quick game. Nice little play call to get him going in space, had some good blocking out in front of him. Pass rush a couple of times did give Mac some problems. I thought they induced a couple of incompletions from Mac. And then you pretty much wrapped up the 11 on 11 with Hallett. Again, another pick of Trask. And this time it was off a deflection by linebacker Devin Lloyd. And I talked about Devin Lloyd yesterday when we were thinking, okay, who could be the Jags' third best pass rusher? If it is Josh Hines Allen and then Trayvon Walker 1-2, maybe it's Eric Armstead, who again we were waiting to see. Didn't see him on Thursday, even though he's been activated from the PUP. I think again, Devin Lloyd, man, when it comes to his ability as a blitzer, and if you just bring him as a fourth guy, you bring him in some zone pressures as a fourth guy. I think he's going to have a chance to really impact the game from that perspective as well. And of course, offensive line, I know there was a lot of consternation about that area following Wednesday's practice. Again, this was not full pad work, so hard to take much of anything from what we saw on Thursday. I'll continue to stand by. I don't think this is going to be a 5 for all time, the first 5. But I think if you can keep the 5 healthy, you got a chance to be good enough with the skill people they've got, with the way that they can scheme some things for Trevor, get him away from the pocket, not make him as much of a sitting target. I think this 5 can handle that. What I said yesterday, and I continue to stand by, my bigger concern is if you lose a couple of those guys. And now you're getting into your depth, kind of like also what we saw a year ago. That's not going to be good really for any offense. And, the Jags are obviously included in that. So some good work on Thursday. Of course, you're going to have Jags Bucs Saturday night at Everbank Stadium, 7:30 kickoff. That's a CBS game, I think. So you're going to have that to look forward to. Really, though, if you wanted to see Trevor this week against the Bucs, you were going to have to see him on Wednesday and Thursday. Quarterbacks continue to be very crisp and efficient. I like the energy that Matt continues to bring to that side of the ball. There just seems to be, I hate the word juice, but just seems like there is a tempo. We'll use that I like with Mac. We alluded to this on yesterday's show about you're starting to see some injuries around the NFL already. JJ McCarthy in Minnesota, going to be a lot of buzz about potential candidates to go to Minnesota because the Vikings are, I think, just enough in that window of opportunity to perhaps go outside Sam Darnold and bring in someone else. I know that people have talked about CJ Beathard. The thing is, I still don't think CJ is a guy that you're going to get a pick for. I don't see it. Maybe you will. I do think if you wanted to offer up or someone called about Mac Jones, you could get something more than the 6th that you gave up to bring him in. So, we'll see how it goes. The problem with that is, to me, Mac Jones is clearly the number 2 for this Jaguar team. And if you want to avoid a situation like you found yourself in a year ago, it's going to have to take something very, very, very attractive at this point for me to go that route. And that's what the understanding that I think CJ Beathard is still a very viable backup. But do you think if it comes down to another situation where you need a guy for 3 or 4 weeks, you feel all that comfortable with that? I would have a couple of years ago, not so much the last couple of years. As always, we appreciate you tuning in right here to No Sleep Teal on the Reier on YouTube channel. It's always a lot of fun. We always enjoy talking Jaguar football with you. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, we certainly hope you'll go ahead and do that right now. Until next time, so long, everybody.